following is a presentation of Main Street Media, your source for news, sports, and information on Main Street in Middle Tennessee.
Into Main Street Sports today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Yao, Mo Patton coming to you from Columbia down here in southern Middle Tennessee. Glad to be with you as always. What a fantastic day it is. We got quarter zips on. It just doesn't get much better than this, Mo.
Yeah, I had a quarter zip on yesterday, but I had to take it off when I went to cross country because it was a little heavier than necessary. So you got to watch the weight.
It's funny, the 70 to 72 degrees is real hot if there's no shade, but if you're in the shade it can be really cold. So you gotta know where you're going and where you're gonna be and all kinds of different things. It is a little interesting.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's fall's coming. I guess technically fall is here.
Yeah, there is that.
Yeah, don't pay any attention to next week though, because it's supposed to
78, 79, and 80 on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
And it's trending upward, I believe.
Well, that's what I've been saying that all week on Mornings on Main Street. We do the weather every day. And I tell people who just moved here, this is false fall. This is just wait a minute, because next week it ain't going to be like this. It's going to be like what it's been. Just don't get excited is what I'm saying. Sarah was like, oh, we need to get stuff to make chili. And I'm like, we already got dinner for this week, and next week it's going to be hot. And she was like, oh. Well,
Jody actually made white chicken chili
I'm still
about a week and a half ago.
I'm still waiting to get some of that.
Yeah, so. Oh, and some jelly too, right?
Yes. Got to get strawberry jam.
You might just have to call. She's been making jam for about the last week or so. I think she calls herself cleaning out the freezer and much needed, actually. But that's another story for another day.
I feel you. No, yeah. I need to get. I'll get her jars back. That way we can just refill them. It's real easy. You just need free refills, right?
Recycling.
We're recycling. It's all good.
There you go.
But yeah, so it's going to be a great show. It's going to be nice outside all day today. And if you are looking to get outside, if you're looking to do anything, you should do it outside because it is super nice out there. But yeah, so let's dive right in. It's a kind of a short rundown today. We obviously Tuesdays are kind of busy, but Wednesdays are not. Mm-hmm. So we'll get to it on today's rundown.
In volleyball action on Tuesday, Station Camp blanked Beach 3-0. Also, Franklin Road Christian down Zion Christian 3-0. It was Gallatin over Portland 3-2. Oakland shut out Laverne 3-0. Loretto defeated Hampshire 3-0. It was Mount Pleasant 3, Perry County 0. Page with a 3-0 win over Spring Hill. Riverdale downed Blackman 3-2, and Watertown defeated Clay County 3-0.
In shutout fashion in girls soccer action yesterday, Beach down to Clarksville Northeast 5-0. Oakland 2-0 winners over Brentwood. It was Cheatham County 6, East Robertson 1, Clarksville Northwest 5, Clarksville Academy 1. Creekwood 4-1 winners over Springfield. Cullioca down to Cornersville 5-0. It was
undefeated Cullioca. 10-0-2 Cullioca.
They're looking mighty fine right now.
Yes.
Do the Lady Warriors. East Hickman 9-0 over Loretto. Father Ryan 3-1 over Franklin. Station Camp 3-1 as well over Gallatin. And BGA a 3-0 winner over Grace Franklin.
Pope Prep defeated Harpeth Hall 6-2. It was Hume Fogg shutting out Hillwood 5-0. Overton with a 3-0 win over Hunter's Lane. Mount Juliet down to Laverne 7-0. Wilson Central with a 2-0 win over Lebanon. Lincoln County defeated Lawrence County 3-0. It was Lipscomb Academy 1, Ensworth 0. Green Hill with a 4-0 win over Martin Luther King. Antioch and McGavock played to a 3-3 deadlock. Merrill Hyde blanked Good Pasture 5-0, and St. Andrews Sewanee edged Middle Tennessee Christian 2-1.
It was Fairview 2-1 winners as well over Montgomery Central. Murfreesboro Central 4-0 over Tullahoma. Nashville Christian a 4-3 winner over Middle Tennessee Christian. Portland and Macon County. Portland with a 3-2 win there. Huntland shut out Richland 6-0. Smyrna shut out Cookeville 1-0. Rossville an 8-4 winner over Sycamore. West Creek 4-1 over White House Heritage. And White House 6-1 over Liberty Creek.
In pro baseball action on Tuesday night, it was Pittsburgh defeating Cincinnati 4-1. The Cubs down Philadelphia 2-1. The Cardinals clinched the NL Central with a 6-2 win over Milwaukee. The Braves defeated the Nationals 8-2. They have outscored the Nats 16-2 in the first two games of that series. And the Marlins defeated the Mets 6-4, forcing a tie atop the National League East.
There you go. It was today's schedule. Sorry.
There we go.
Father Ryan at St. Cecilia Academy at 5:15 in volleyball today. Also in volleyball at 6 o'clock, it's Eagleville hosting Stewart's Creek. And at 7 o'clock, Middle Tennessee Christian's at home against Providence Christian. And girls soccer action, Riverdale is at Siegel. That's a 2 o'clock start. Giles County at Murfreesboro Central. That's at 5 o'clock. Republic hosting Waverly at 5:30. Greenbrier at home against Liberty Creek at 6. And at 7, Pages at Independence. Centennial hosts Spring Hill.
In pro baseball action today/tonight, the Reds and the Pirates are tied at 3 in the 10th. So that was a businessman special. Is that the most up to date?
That is.
Okay. The Braves and the Nationals conclude
their middle of the 10th now.
The Braves and the Nationals conclude their series in Washington at 6:05 this evening. The Marlins and the Mets conclude their series at Citi Field. That game starts at 6:10. Philadelphia is at Wrigley Field against the Cubs. That's a 6:40 start, as is St. Louis at Milwaukee. And in minor league baseball action, your International League West Division champion Nashville Sounds are currently trailing at First Horizon Park against Memphis. They're down 5-3 in the top of the 7th. And this is their regular season finale before they go out to Vegas.
Right.
So there you go.
All right.
That is your rundown.
It is, in fact. Well, Mo, let's talk about the top story today. As we've talked about the Live Golf Tour, and they are struggling to get eyeballs on their tour right now because it's currently only on YouTube and their website. Like, you can watch it live on YouTube or you can watch it on their website, and that's it.
And that's interesting because, I mean, for all the money that they're throwing around, that money's not going to last without a TV contract.
Well, I guess they're going to try to force that because they're going to have to buy time on Fox Sports.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it's going to make it even more difficult. But they are currently, Golf Week says they are nearing a deal to buy airtime on Fox Sports that would see their events broadcast on FS1. The deal is still being finalized. They are 5 events into their inaugural season with 3 more on tap. Next year, they go to 14 tournaments in 2023. So one of the big issues right now is the 54-hole shotgun start events have been streamed on YouTube. Greg Norman, commissioner of the league, of the tour, said that they were talking to 4 potential media companies about a partnership. But the thing is that they only have 2 teams on Sunday. So obviously Sunday is the day that you are most typically golf fans are watching golf.
Mm-hmm.
So they are switching the format because TV execs wanted more players on the course in the final round. So Liv tweaked its plans to include 4 4-man teams competing in stroke play in the final round, which would be aired on Sundays. Right now, they had asked Fox to basically say we'll pay for the first year, but we want a media rights deal in the second year. We want you guys to pay us.
And Fox is saying
And
no.
Fox said no. And rightfully so, because you just don't know how it's going to work out. I mean, if it works out great the first time around, but Fox is
This
also,
isn't like XFL football. I mean, it's not a drop dead lead pipe cinch, you know.
sure.
I mean, you can sell football anytime. So, but
This could be good for Fox. It could be bad though, because if it works out really well, then Liv might say, well, you had your chance. We're going elsewhere now that people are willing to pay for us. You could have, but you said no.
Yeah.
So it is a gamble by both Liv and Fox here.
but
we'll see.
I'd say it's less of a gamble by Fox, really, because why are we going to give away money if we don't have to? And we're just fine where we're at.
But what else are they? I mean, I guess on FS1 on Sundays, what are they airing? Big 12 replays?
Maybe. I mean, I don't watch a whole lot of FS1, so I don't know. But
it's interesting that FS1 has not become more prevalent.
Maybe because they're not airing live golf.
Well, that's what Greg Norman would tell you.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to me how different FS1 is perceived. I mean, people will watch ESPNU and the SEC network before they'll watch FS1, and they've got really good programs. I mean, Shannon and Skip, they're crazy, but it's quality entertainment. And
if you're going to watch that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, if you're watching Talking Heads, I'd much rather watch them than the other channel, you know. And then, you know, you think about Cowherd's on there. If you're a pro sports fan, Cowherd is the guy. But I guess maybe it's because it's the Southeast. Maybe across the country, FS1 is more prevalent.
Maybe so. That could very well
be. Down here, we just don't watch it.
No.
Mainly because we don't care about most of their content. The
Big 12, and the Big 10. The stuff that you do care about is on the SEC network.
Yeah. So maybe that's it. Maybe we're just out of touch with the rest of the country down here in the Southeast. I can't imagine where anybody would get that idea.
Go figure.
Anyway, so Live Golf may be going to FS1, but they're going to have to pay for it. That's the top story. That's the point here that we're trying to make.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's take a quick break, Mo. We've got Heather Williams standing by, and she'll be joining us here momentarily to talk a little NASCAR and who knows what else. So you guys stick around here on Main Street. Enjoy. We'll be right back right after this. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbga.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, ZionEagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's ZionEagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Maury County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Welcome back into Main Street Sports today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint. Chris Yao, Mo Patton coming to you from Columbia, Southern Middle Tennessee down here, but happy to be reaching you across the mid-state on Main Street Media TV and Main Street Media TV applications on your mobile phone, your Roku, Fire TV, or Apple device, or just, your regular social media channels, however you prefer to partake. We appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We got a great segment coming up as we get a chance to bring in the resident NASCAR specialist here on Main Street Sports today, Heather Williams, joining us now. Heather, what's up?
Hey guys, I enjoyed your conversation about FS1 and the SEC network, and just tell you what I tell people a lot of times when talk about things for different generations. It applies here. It ain't for you. FS1 is not for you. It's for my friends back in the Midwest that like Ohio State and Kansas and Missouri, and I guess Missouri's in the SEC now, but the rest of the teams in the state of Missouri, it's not for you. You have your own network.
And there you go.
That makes sense. I mean, again, that's what
But here's the thing, though. If they're going to be a regional network, then that's fine. But don't try to sell me that you're a national network.
Well, they do have a lot of national sports. Most notable one would be NASCAR. I mean, the Truck Series is on there the entire season, and an unlimited number of the Cup Series and Xfinity Series racing. So, I mean, they are a national, even dare I say, a Southern network in regards to NASCAR. But those college programs are not for you. they're for me and the poor people that like Midwest football that don't ever get to see Kansas, even though still undefeated, still can't get on national television.
Or in the top 25. We kind of broke that down a little bit earlier this week, Heather. We are kind of beating that drum along with you for the Jayhawks.
Well, it's probably going to end this weekend. I do not feel good about Iowa State. That's a team, no matter how good we are or how bad we are, seems to have our number. But they're not very good this year either. So, I mean, let's see what happens.
Well, and hope springs eternal. I mean, who thought K-State was going to go to Norman and win this past weekend?
It's kind of funny because K-State and Oklahoma have the same kind of relationship that Kansas and Texas do. Even when one team is really good, and usually that one team is Oklahoma and one team's really bad, K-State or Texas and Kansas, the lesser team finds a way to win a lot in that series for whatever reason. I don't know if it's just the styles fit, or maybe they got a little bit in your head, or you're always looking past them. But, Kansas has beaten Texas more than they should have in the history. And I would say the same would be true about Oklahoma, and Kansas State.
Yeah, she's not wrong. That's so true. But so you never know. And in the Big 12 especially, you just never know. I mean, every given Saturday in that league.
More there than in a lot, it seems.
Well, it's not as top heavy as a lot of leagues are.
Right.
I mean, it's a really, other than Oklahoma, which has been for years now, the class of that league, but they're down a little bit this year. Other than them, there's no Alabama or Georgia in that league, right? Everybody in that league is, a Kentucky, a Tennessee. I mean, everybody's pretty equal. And so it makes it a little bit more volatile than like the SEC when it comes to upsets.
I like it though.
Yeah, it's fun.
Well, of course you do.
You're on the bottom end of it. You're the one everybody's looking forward to playing usually.
You got to realize Chris is Captain Chaos, and he has earned that reputation. But yeah, Heather, Is a playoff driver going to win a race in the playoffs?
It's possible they won't. Now, I mean, Tyler Reddick was just eliminated from the playoffs last week, so it's not like the first three who weren't even ever in the playoffs. But it does speak to the parity in NASCAR right now, which I think is fantastic. There are easily 25 cars in the field that can win on every given week. We've had 19 winners, which means there's at least 6 more that can win, right? I mean, Ryan Blaney hasn't won yet. Martin Truex Jr. hasn't won yet. Truex is not in the playoffs. Michael McDowell hasn't won yet. Brad Keselowski hasn't won yet. So
those are big names too.
Yeah. And guys that have won races in the past.
Right.
So I definitely think that it's possible. I mean, you go into Daytona this weekend, I can probably name you 6 drivers that haven't won this year that have a legitimate chance to win at Daytona. When you talk about a Harrison Burton in the 21 car in that team has a great history on the restricted plate races. And Harrison Burton's been pretty competitive on the super speedways this year. So, I mean, would I put money on Vegas on him? No. Does he have a legitimate chance to win? Absolutely. And so
everybody has a chance to win this weekend.
Well, no, everybody does.
Hey, hold on now. The last that last race at Daytona, we had 10 cars on the track at the end of the race. And who knows?
Right. You did, but you saw in the final restart that there were 4 cars that pulled away, and the guys that aren't normally up front couldn't keep up. The BJ McLeods, and
sure.
I was happy to see BJ and Cody Ware and those guys get top 10 finishes, but in that final restart, that pack of Austin Dillon and I think Austin Cindric, they pulled away from those other cars. So there are still a handful of cars. Yeah, I guess if they're all in a huge pack going into turn 4 and they all wreck and one guy goes through, maybe. But
it's Talladega. It can happen.
Right, it could. But realistically speaking, there are probably 4 or 5 cars that don't have a chance to win. But everybody else does. There's 36 cars, so there's still 30 cars, right, that have a chance to win. Can you talk about a guy like Noah Gragson, right? And he's running this race this weekend. That guy's been on fire in the Cup Series. The car he's in doesn't normally have a chance to win, but this weekend with Noah in it, it can happen.
And that makes it pretty exciting. Clearly.
Oh, it makes it great. And it makes it different from other stick and ball sports, right? Because in the playoffs, you're eliminated, right? You don't get a chance to keep competing. And this is something that's unique to NASCAR. And I kind of love it because, much like Chris, I am also Captain Chaos. And I enjoy the chaos that is NASCAR right now. You have no idea who's going to win the championship here this year. None. You can even pick a favorite.
Well, you'd better be able to pick one because we're going to ask you here in a minute. But
my pick's gone so far. Not so great.
I mean, but she's not wrong in that. I mean, right now in the playoffs, there's not anybody who who you just say, okay, it's this guy's to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And just when you think you found someone, right? Because all summer long it was like, oh, it's Chase Elliott. The playoff starts, Chase Elliott's been not that great. Like he's hanging on by a thread right now. Then when the first round of the playoffs, everybody was like, oh, it's Christopher Bell. And then Christopher Bell was terrible in the first round of the first race of the second round. So just when you think you found that person, it gets all shaken up again, which, Captain Chaos, I enjoy.
Well, it's the Yellowwood 500 this weekend, Mo, and I wouldn't be surprised if Auburn's looking for a football coach in Talladega at this point. So who knows what's going to happen when the yellow suit comes out.
Isn't Bruce Pearl involved in like the Start Your Engines or something this weekend?
It would not surprise me.
It would make good sense
based off of it being the Yellowwood 500 and Jimmy Rain, such an Auburn.
I think he is.
And what did we say yesterday with Nebias Wilburn? That guy, Bruce Pearl, is a different breed for the Auburn world. He's a little more entertaining than they're used to. I can assure you. So
Auburn's Bruce Pearl to serve as Talladega's honorary starter Sunday is an article on Yahoo Sports.
Yeah, so he's going to be the guy going, gentlemen, start your engines.
Yeah, and waving the green flag. Can't wait to see the speed of these cars, plus see how the race teams will strategize to get a W. I'm thankful to the Yellowwood team for giving me this opportunity, says Bruce. So sounds like this might be his first race.
Yeah, sounds like it, which is kind of surprising when you think about how much time he spent in the South now. I mean, between Tennessee and Auburn and all the time you spend at those two schools, you would have thought.
And the time between those schools, it seemed like he might have had a little time
a little time on his hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of surprised he never made it over to Bristol.
Right.
Well, from Knoxville to Bristol is about the same distance as Auburn to Talladega. So yeah, you just 2-lane roads both ways too. So as I'm looking here, you've got some interesting pairings here. Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. at 17, 18 with Christopher Bell at 19. It looks like the Toyotas kind of grouped together there, but this is Daniel Suarez having to start at the rear. This is wild. This could get crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's Talladega, so where you start means nothing. I mean, it really means nothing. If you are mid-pack back, you're probably going to drop back to try to miss the wreck. If you're in the front half, you're going to try to get to the front to try to miss the wreck. But we've seen so much in the last 5 or 6 at least super speedway races where the wreck will happen at the front and there's really no safe place. So I mean, you can get from 36 to first in like 2 laps at Talladega, if 1 lap, depending on how the energy is flowing. So
well, especially if you're Daniel Suarez, that's kind of my point. Is he's going to be racing through cars that have no business being in front of him.
Well, and I mean, like I said, it doesn't matter. It's all about the energy of whatever line you pick. That's why you see guys that are so good at the super speedways, because the key to being truly successful there is being able to read the energy and being able to guess which line is moving forward. And even if you get shuffled back, finding that energy and moving forward again. So that's why you see the guys like Denny Hamlin and Bubba Wallace and Joey Logano that are always good. They may not always win. They may not always have the best luck at those races, but they are always going to be towards the front because they're so good. I mean, the best there was at that, obviously, with Dale Earnhardt. He always used to talk about how he could see the air. Now, he couldn't literally see the air, but what he could see was the energy of the lines and which lines were moving and where to go to follow which cars to get to the front. And that's a skill, and it's not something that everybody takes seriously. There's plenty of drivers that take super speedway racing as, oh, it's just a roll of the dice. I end up where I end up, and I hope I don't crash. But for those guys that are really good, they take it seriously, and they really try to find those lanes that will get them to the front quickly, and they'll purposely go to the back and work their way front so they know how to do that at the end of the race.
Heather Williams with WCYB-TV out of Bristol joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. And I want to remind folks, Heather's weekly NASCAR discussions with us are just kind of the tip of the iceberg. She does a weekly show, The Backstretch, and this week she's got Joey Logano as a guest. And Heather, tell folks where they can find that if they want to get a little more of your expertise.
Well, you can find the weekly show, which is about 6 minutes that we do during our newscast, on our station's website, which is WCYB.com. I also do a podcast each week, which includes extended conversations with whoever our guest is. So last Saturday when it dropped, it was Logano. And then my co-host, Chris Carrier. And that you can find on Apple Podcasts or on Podbean. So I highly recommend listening to the conversation with Joey Logano. I know a lot of people don't like Joey because of the way he is on the track, but he is one of the most thoughtful guys in the garage area, and his analysis of the state of NASCAR and things going on there's very few people in the garage area that can equal his insight that he freely gives up with a smile, which I know is one of the things that people don't like because he'll wreck you and then smile at you. But it's a really good conversation.
At WCYB_Heather on Twitter, if you care to follow her. And we can't obviously let you get out of here, Heather, without asking you, who's your pick at Talladega this weekend?
So, there's a few things at Talladega. There's been a lot of trouble with the tires recently. I don't know that that'll be as much of an issue at a track like Talladega, but it's something to keep an eye on because it has been an issue both at Bristol and then last week at Texas. The Toyotas have been really good on the super speedways and the larger tracks the last couple of tracks, really all season. So, I expect Toyotas to be up front. It's hard to go to Talladega and not want to automatically pick Bubba Wallace because he is probably, he and Denny Hamlin are probably the best two super speedway racers in the garage. But I find it hard to believe that we are just going to continue to have non-playoff driver after non-playoff driver win. So I'm going to pick someone who's not a Toyota and not Bubba Wallace, which goes across absolutely against my instinct, but somebody who's very good and has several wins at Talladega. I'm going to pick Ryan Blaney.
All right.
There you have it.
Well, it's interesting because, Blaney is one of those guys, we've heard you pick him before, and he needs something positive right now. So, and
well, it's so funny because when I talked to Joey Logano about this season, and it kind of sums up really Blaney's season more than Logano's, but he's like, in the first round of the playoffs, I was good at Darlington. I was okay at Kansas, and I was terrible at Bristol, and that was good enough. And that's pretty much been Blaney's season. He's been good, okay, and terrible, and it's just been good enough for him to keep advancing. But you're right. He's going to have something big happen if he wants to get to the championship 4, because eventually just good enough is not going to be good enough because there's just not that many spots left. But this is a track. The next 2 weeks are actually really good tracks for Blaney. They're both tracks that he has wins at before. And if there's any place on the schedule where he can get a win that he doesn't have this year, I say it's going to be either this week at Talladega or next week at the Charlotte Roval. Those are his best chances.
All right. Well, Heather, we appreciate it. We're going to let you get out of here on this Wednesday edition, and we will be back shortly on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Barn & Joint. Thanks, Heather.
See you guys.
All right, we'll be back after this.
The high school football season is here, and nobody handles Friday nights better than Main Street Media. Here's Zach Womble with details.
That's the name of the game here at Main Street Media and Main Street Preps. Is, we've been doing this for a long time now, and I think you hit on it. We've got an army of reporters across all of Middle Tennessee. I think there's about 130 schools in the Middle Tennessee area, and we try to cover all of them. We cover about 11, 12 counties at this point. And those Friday night shows, it's we're gonna show that off. We're gonna showcase the talent that we have on the field with reporters across several mid-state games on the weekly basis. So, whether you're in Williamson County, whether you're in Giles County or Murray County or Montgomery or Robertson or anywhere in between, we're going to have you covered from 6 to 11.
Friday Night Live is presented by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office, where fans don't let fans drive drunk.
This is Chris Yao with Main Street Sports Today. Every show, Mo Patton and I welcome friends from all across the sports landscape, from high school coaches and reporters to national, college, and pro sports personalities. You never know who might stop by for a chat. AP Tennessee Sports Editor, 3-time Tennessee Sports Writer of the Year 2020 TSWA Hall of Famer. She covers the Titans, the Predators, the Grizzlies, college football, and hoops. Please make welcome Teresa Walker.
Former University of Tennessee, former Team USA Olympian, ex-Cy Young Award winner, R.A. Dickey. R.A., did I miss anything?
Man, that was sweet. Yeah, I need to listen to that before I go to bed every night. That was nice.
Has 5 sports Emmys. That's not bad for the other guy in Wham, Ryan McGee.
The other guy in Wham married the best looking girl, Bananarama. So the other guy in Wham had a pretty good life.
From preps to pros, we're taking on the sports topics you care about. Tune in across Main Street Media social platforms at 2 p.m. or on demand on your podcast distribution platform of choice. Mo dubbed it Women Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Barn & Joint. Heather Williams just giving us her insight to FS1 and to NASCAR.
Oh, yeah.
And later we have Teresa Walker coming up, talk a little Titans and
whatever else
comes up in that situation.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Hey, before we move on, I don't want to get too far from this weekend's race, because I know a guy who works at the college in that town, and I was listening to a podcast that he does a couple of weeks ago. He's like a librarian down there, and but he said Talladega, and I asked him, I said, I noticed that you pronounced Talladega, not Talladega. And he said, yeah, that's locals say it that way.
It's like
and
dig a hole. It's Talladega.
Talladega.
Talladega. That is it. There's a book about the history of the town, and the first page is the pronunciation. It's all it's on the front page is the pronunciation.
Okay, so how did it get?
That's a great
I
question.
mean, because you being from Alabama, I rely on you for this stuff because I wouldn't know.
I have no idea how Dega came to be. I have to assume that it was something to do with NASCAR because it's the only reason Talladega has any sort of, prominence outside of Talladega College. But yeah, so it's the only other person who has, or the only other pronunciation that is acceptable is Talladega, which is kind of a little, it's like DEGA,
right?
DA or DI, but and that's Larry McReynolds, and he was Davey Allison's crew chief, and so he's the only one who I allow to say however he wants to. But no, if you're talking about the town, it's Talladega, like dig a hole.
Okay.
I dated a girl who went to Talladega High School when I was at Huntington, and she showed me the book, and I was like, "What? I don't believe this."
Blasphemy, huh?
This is ridiculous.
Yeah,
I will not have this. Will not stand.
Yeah, you gonna tell the folks in a town how to pronounce the name of their town, huh?
So anyway, that is the actual correct pronunciation is like dig a hole.
Talladega.
Mm-hmm. But it is interesting.
Yeah.
To say the very least, anyway.
Okay. Back to your regularly scheduled programming already in progress.
I love this tweet that you liked on Twitter about Aaron Judge striking out 167 times this season. Meanwhile, Tony Gwynn struck out 167 times
in the 90s. in the decade. Yeah. Contact doesn't mean what it used to.
It's a different world. It's
Absolutely.
a different world.
Yeah. Get off my lawn.
So there you go. So I was scrolling through Twitter just before the beginning of this show, as we are wont to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk about Heisman contenders a little bit in this segment because it seems like every single podcast, video cast that I've seen pop up this week has ranked their top 5 Heisman contenders. And I know it's early.
It is early.
But, and here's the thing, we come into this much like preseason rankings, but, there are 2 or 3 guys who you really thought were going to be there at the end of the year. And 2 or 3 of those guys are probably still there.
Well, I would imagine one of those guys is the guy who has a Heisman.
Yeah. Bryce Young is certainly in the conversation, but honestly, I mean, he hasn't, outside of that final drive against Texas, he's not been overly exciting, but they haven't really started conference play yet. They've not started, they've not started playing those teams that you want to see him perform well against, Texas A&M's, et cetera, which, by the way, October 8th, Alabama will be on the doubleheader, with that 10 game being at night in Tuscaloosa. The early game is going to be a barn burner. At 2:30 on October 8th, you'll see Auburn and Georgia. A nationally televised funeral for Brian Harsin.
Literally, perhaps?
Literally. So that's unfortunate. But anyway.
That's kind of like you and so many UT fans. Why are they putting us on national TV?
Just stop. Just stop. It's trust me, it's not going to be worth it. But everybody that I have seen putting up their Heisman candidates has Hendon Hooker in their top 5 somewhere. And coming off of announced yesterday, he was SEC Offensive Player of the Week.
Mm-hmm.
A a lot of folks, including us, had him as a dark horse candidate. I mean, we asked Dave Hooker if Hendon Hooker was going to be
No relation.
if he could be, a potential Heisman candidate, and he said absolutely, because in an offense like Josh Heupel's,
a former Heisman finalist,
runner up,
yeah,
to the oldest Heisman winner of all time. Because you may or may not have been watching during the athletic trivia question, but when they asked that question, my first thought was Jason White, who was like 26.
Chris Weinke was older.
And then as I got to thinking about it, I said, Weinke might have been older. And Dad was like, I think you're right. I think it is Weinke.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. But yeah, I mean, Hendon Hooker's in everybody's top 5. Is he in your top 5?
Gotta be. I mean, right now, with what he did against Florida, I think he's got to be in your top 5 for sure.
Was that touchdown to go up a
Heisman moment?
Heisman moment?
Quite possibly. Now, I mean, obviously, you got to back that up.
Sure. And you've got plenty of opportunities to do that against really good teams. You've got 3 more top 10 opponents coming your way as of right now. Now, who knows where Kentucky will be after they lose to Georgia. But right now, you've got 3 teams that are sitting in the top 10 that you've got to play. Outside of that, though, I mean, there just isn't any. CJ Stroud is my number 1 right now, just because, I mean, gosh, they look so good.
They do look
Wisconsin.
good. Yeah. Now, I'm not sure. Again, what is Wisconsin?
They're not good.
So,
I mean,
I don't know how much weight you want to give CJ Stroud's performance against a not necessarily very good 2022 Wisconsin team.
Well, I mean, their schedule so far has just not been very good. I mean, based off of what we've seen from Notre Dame since that first game, and then they've just not played anybody of note. And truthfully, I mean, Hendon Hooker has the toughest schedule of the Heisman contenders right now.
I'm looking at an article on sportsnaut.com that apparently does a weekly Heisman Trophy rankings, and they've got in order Stroud, Young, Hooker, Caleb Williams, Stetson Bennett. So their first 5 candidates are quarterbacks.
Not surprising.
Will Anderson, Dylan Gabriel, and then Jalen Daniels of Kansas. But there is a certain coach at a certain school who says, don't forget our guy. Shadur Sanders, Jackson State sophomore, has thrown for nearly 1,400 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 1 pick. And Jackson State is number 8 in the FCS coaches poll. Obviously, there has never been an HBCU player to win a Heisman Trophy, and
one came close.
Steve McNair in '94 out of Alcorn State finished 3rd in the voting.
He also got whooped by Jacksonville State, but I ain't gonna say nothing.
That's not necessary. That's not necessary at all. We ain't talking about Jacksonville State. We ain't talking about Rich Rod. The only Alabama we're talking about here is Bryce Young and Will Anderson. Nobody said anything about Jacksonville State. No, Steve McNair that year, despite losing to Jacksonville State, threw for 5,377 yards, 14 touchdowns, rushed for 936 yards and 9 touchdowns.
That just goes to show the difference in the game. Steve McNair threw for as many touchdowns as Sanders has right now.
No, he 47 touchdowns.
Oh, okay. I'm
yeah.
Sorry. I thought you said 14.
No. He threw for 47 touchdowns.
Gotcha.
And 5,377 yards.
Still a crazy. I mean, 56 touchdowns.
Total.
56
total.
Is that would that be the record in the FBS? Because didn't Tebow
I
have 50, 52 or something? When he scored 50, everybody made a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know the exact number, but you wonder, can young Mr. Sanders, as opposed to Coach Prime, get himself into that conversation on a national level when you consider the schedule that Jackson State plays?
It's hard to do what he's done so far against air.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so yes, maybe. Anyway,
I think it's going to bear watching, but it's
say yes.
It's just funny to me, though, that as we're talking about Heisman candidates,
I mean, he's definitely going to win the Walter
Payton for the top.
Definitely going to win.
Yeah, the FCS Player of the Year, basically. There's not a running back anywhere in sight in the conversation.
Outside of the kid from Michigan State
last
year.
Yeah.
I mean, can you name a starting running back in college football right now?
Truly can't.
I literally could not tell you the starting running back for anybody, including Alabama, who uses running backs.
Jahmyr Gibbs, the transfer from Georgia Tech.
There you go. I mean, honestly, like I could not tell you.
Yeah.
Running backs are just, unfortunately, they
are running backs going the way of fullbacks?
Maybe. I mean, it's just because most everybody does it by committee at this point, because there's so many great athletes that you can put back there. You don't have to you're not going to find any, there are so few Trent Richardson, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram type backs.
Mm-hmm.
Guys who
Sean Alexander.
Guys who can withstand that 25 carry pounding that they're going to take.
Mm-hmm.
There just aren't a lot of those guys out there.
It's interesting.
I guess,
but I think
the starting running back at Georgia Tech is Dante Smith, or it was. So I guess technically we did know him.
We did know Dante. We do know Dante. Yes, it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Brent Key out of Hewitt Trustful High School, former Hewitt Trustful High School, out of where I used to work. Brent Key is the interim.
Okay, all right. Well, maybe he'll get rid of the running back by committee and give it to Dante.
Let's go.
18, 20 times a game.
He's a guy who can.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen it. So,
yeah.
Anyway,
I've seen it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, running backs are just out there. There's so many of them. You can do it by committee, and there just aren't a whole lot of guys who can take it.
If you had a Derrick Henry, would it still be a running back by committee, or would he be your guy?
No,
the way the game sits right now.
I think unless you're at Mississippi State, then yes. I mean, there are some schools that you're obviously not going to go to if you're a running back, right? Like that. But if you are and you're at any Big Ten school, just about, they'll take you and they'll run you. And then there are a handful of SEC schools who would build their offense around you. Alabama, Georgia, they can do that. I mean, they just have that mentality. Hey, we can line up because their offensive lines are so much better than everybody else.
Georgia's just going to run their tight end instead.
And why wouldn't you? Brock Bowers is Derrick Henry, basically. That guy's huge.
Yeah.
So anyway, I did want to get to this real quick before we get out of this segment. The what if rankings, Mo. What if every one possession and OT game had gone the opposite way? These would be the most deserving rankings from K Ford Rankings. Kelsey Ford, Texas #1. Obviously, they would have beaten Alabama. How about MTSU down here? Would be 3-1 at 39th, and then Western Kentucky at 4-0 had they.
Well, what's interesting about middle is nothing changed because I don't think they've had a one possession or overtime game.
And they
are 3-1.
But with that win over Miami, they hop into the top 40 here.
Yeah. Where's UT? Not
Tennessee would no, because they would have lost to Pitt.
So they would be
out apparently, even
at 3-1. Huh.
While Troy would have beaten
And that puts Pittsburgh in
right
at 33.
This is certainly
That's pretty
interesting.
fascinating, man. Yeah, because look at Western Kentucky up there at number 32 at 4-0.
South Alabama number 12, 4-0.
That UCLA game.
UCLA game. West Virginia would have beaten Pitt. LSU would have obviously beaten Florida State, and Utah over Florida. I mean, this is interesting to think about.
It really is. LSU at 4.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't be there. I also don't know why Georgia would be number 3, but I guess Texas beating Alabama would put them up there because they just have the best win possible. But yeah, man, that's crazy.
That's crazy that you've got 15 teams that would be undefeated.
That is wild. Man, how about that? Well, technically 17, 18, 19.
Yeah. Your top 15 teams in this would all be undefeated. Plus
half of those. That's pretty cool. I just thought it was interesting. You can follow K Ford at Kelsey Ford on Twitter.
At Kelsey Ford.
Yeah. Let me make positives of that. Let's see here. K Ford rankings. At K Ford rankings. Okay.
At K Ford rankings.
Kelly Ford. I'm sorry, not Kelly.
There you go.
Kelly Ford. Anyway. But yeah, so let's talk about the Braves a little bit, Mo. We gotta get into it because it's
getting interesting or getting more interesting.
After last night, things are a little crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Things are a little crazy. The Braves get a big win and got a pretty darn good start from Kyle Muller.
Yeah.
Now again, it's Nationals, but heck, the Texas Rangers are terrible, and he didn't pitch well against them.
No.
So I'll take it.
By the way, that's K Ford ratings, not K Ford rankings. So yeah, it's all right.
Ratings.
So if you're going looking for that, it's at K Ford ratings on Twitter.
But the Braves
they just got to follow.
Braves get the win 8-2, and despite 3 balks and 1 at bat from a Marlins pitcher, the Marlins get a 6-4 win over the Mets. That means the NL East is tied.
Deadlocked.
97 wins apiece.
And what, 59? 58.
I don't know.
58 losses because there's 7 games left. Yep. 97 and 58 each. 7 games remaining, 3 of which will be between the 2 in Atlanta at some point,
and that's
depending on Hurricane Ian and what he decides to do.
So that was kind of what I wanted to get into here, because it does appear that the Major League Baseball is making at least some sort of effort to.
They're certainly monitoring the situation.
Yeah, to decide what should happen. The good thing is that, what they should have done is both play day games today, or at least the Mets should have played a day game. But
then they could have played tomorrow. Yeah,
or they're at home.
No,
they're at home. Okay. Either way, playing a day game today would have given them the option to travel to Atlanta and potentially play on Thursday if necessary.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently that's not going to happen. Major League Baseball is considering contingency plans. Now, they're not considering starting a day early, according to MLB.com.
They are not.
Yes, correct. Relocating the game to a neutral site was also not a serious consideration as of Wednesday morning, according to MLB.com.
Well, as a ticket holder for Saturday's game, I'm glad.
Mets manager Buck Showalter joked that he is on, quote, double secret probation when asked to disclose details. But he did tell reporters that, quote, we know what's going on.
Okay. Well, it's only Saturday's game.
Double secret probation.
It's only Saturday's game that looks to be in jeopardy because Friday's forecast and Sunday's forecasts are mostly sunny from what I'm looking at here on my phone right now.
Yeah, but you
cannot know. Right now it's a 70% chance of rain on Saturday, which is down from 90%. And again, I'd like to see that number come on down a little bit more, but
it's rough that you got a ticket to Saturday's game of all games. That's unfortunate.
But really, with my schedule,
it was the only possible.
It was the only option. Yeah. So.
Obviously, these 3 games, both teams will have 3 games following the series. So technically it's not for the division, but it's for the division. It feels like
it's for the division. Because Atlanta follows that up by going to Miami for 3. And just as the Marlins are really embracing that spoiler role against the Mets, they could also do that against the Braves next week, I think. The Mets finish up.
I think it's against Philadelphia.
That sounds right. No, I believe it's the Nats.
Even worse. Because Philadelphia is still playing for a playoff spot, which means they'd have something to play for.
Mm-hmm.
The Nationals would just be playing for the Braves.
Yeah.
And they'd probably throw Fetty. just to stick it to us.
Yeah. My phone is not cooperating. I can't get the Met schedule to come.
I can help you with that. I don't know who it is off the top of my head, but either way, it's a National League East team, and it would.
Well, it only leaves 2, like you said.
So, even if the Braves were to win 2 of 3, they still have to go and take care of business against the Marlins.
Mm-hmm.
But it is Nationals, by the way, and it's at home.
Okay.
So there's that.
You're right.
But at least they're going to throw Patrick Corbin, Josiah Gray, and I guess I don't know Espino against Carrasco, Walker, and Bassett, because that's really going to help. Anyway, Braves need to win the series. If they win the series, you feel really good. But it'd be really nice if they could get a game lead tonight, as the Marlins are going to throw Luzardo against Walker in the series finale down there.
It's a winnable game,
and you feel like that's a winnable game if you're the Marlins. Now, I've not been one to root for Don Mattingly at any point in my entire life, but
that changes tonight.
I'd almost root for him tonight, but I would like to send him out on a 3-game sweep.
Yes.
Into I don't know if he's going to retire or go somewhere else or whatever.
Into the end of his Marlins tenure,
certainly
for sure.
the end of his Marlins tenure. So
yeah. But
I wouldn't mind it. That's all I'm saying.
How about a 2-homer night from Ronald Acuna Jr. last night?
Sounds like Ronnie's kind of making his way back. Matt Olson in the last couple of days has been making his way out of a slump, digging out.
Now, here's the thing. You can't look at this last couple of games of Ronnie and say, okay, he's 100%, and just start throwing him out there in right field every night. I think the approach that you've taken here over the last couple of weeks needs to be the approach, certainly through the end of the regular season. Get him off that knee a little bit. It's okay.
I also want to know.
But I'll tell you what, that catch he made in right field last night, that was big time, and he might have been the only guy. He might have been the only outfielder on Atlanta's roster, other than Harris, who could have made that play.
Say we got a couple of guys who can get after it,
but not many for sure.
Unfortunately, tonight the Atlanta Braves will throw Jake Odorizzi.
He's got to be on a very, very short leash, and the thing is, the bullpen is rested thanks to Bryce Elder and last night's performance. Didn't use a lot of arms out of there, so.
No lineup available yet.
If this is a one-time through the order with Odorizzi, I'm fine with that. But the first sign of them getting on him let's make a move, because like you said, I'd really like to be up a game if it's any way possible when the Mets come to town.
Would be nice. All right. Let's go to this day in Braves history, Mo.
September 28th, 2003, after a 2-hour pregame ceremony to observe the final game at Philadelphia's Veterans Stadium, with festivities including the introduction of the all-vet team and an eulogy from Hall of Fame broadcaster Harry Callis, the Philadelphia broadcaster, not Harry Carey, the Chicago Cubs broadcaster. Gotcha. From Hall of Fame broadcaster Harry Callis in front of nearly 60,000 fans, Atlanta put on the black hat and spoiled things with a 5-2 win over the Phillies. 3-run fourth inning capped by Gary Sheffield's RBI single put the visitors ahead for good, with 4 relievers closing out the win for Greg Maddux.
And as I said, we close Veterans Stadium with a win. It'd be nice to close Mattingly's Marlins career with 3 of them.
With 3. Yep.
So.
I like it.
All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, Teresa Walker standing by here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. So you guys stick around. We'll be right back after this.
This is attorney Bart Durham, and this is me. I'm Aaliyah. Keeping in good physical condition is really important to me. But when I had a wreck with a tractor-trailer truck that hurt my legs so bad I couldn't work for almost a year, I knew I needed a lawyer that understood tractor-trailer cases. So I called Bart. Bart gets millions of dollars for his clients every year.
At Bart Durham Injury Law, we've handled hundreds of tractor-trailer cases.
My dad and I want to help. Give us a call at 615-242-9000.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Welcome back into this Women Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. It is time now to go to, well, the do-it-all. Does it all.
She does it all.
Whatever you need done.
She does it all fantastically.
Absolutely. So. We have Teresa Walker, the Associated Press, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, and she is already at home. It's always good. So thank you for joining us.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because when I reached out to her and asked her if she would be available at 3 today, she said, yes, and I'm working from home, so there won't be any connections issues. So she is at home, and hopefully there won't be any connection issues. Teresa.
Hi guys. Hi. I made it home about 30 minutes ago, so I'm all set and no connection issues, and I have my earbuds in. So if my cat does knock something over, demanding to be fed while we're talking, hopefully you won't hear it as badly.
Well, cats do that.
Yes. Yeah. That's Roscoe's little signal. It's like knocking over trash cans. Feed me now.
We have designated cat-free zones in our house, and one of those is the office that I do the show out of. So, but he will scratch at the door sometimes. So, yeah, exactly that. Teresa, I know it's been a busy week for you. I think you made a run down to Memphis on Monday to check out the Grizzlies, and I know they're excited about things, but a lot of talk in the aftermath of the Titans' 24-22 win Sunday over the Raiders regarding, I guess, the Titans' secondary, specifically one of the cornerback spots. Where is Caleb Farley right now?
He is it feels like he's maybe swimming a little bit and trying to, he hardly touched the field on Sunday, and they went with Terrence Mitchell, a guy that they signed last Wednesday, and got him on the field. And guess what? Terrence Mitchell was kind of chewed up and spit out a little bit. I mean, he was the guy who was on Matt Collins. Well, yeah, but here's the thing. He was the guy dealing with Matt Collins. Well, did you notice that Devontae Adams was 5 of 36? And, they kept Darren Waller under control. I mean, that was the intended target on the interception by Kevin Byard, which puts him third in the NFL since like 2017 or something. He leads all safeties with picks, and he's behind a pair of cornerbacks. I think it's Xavier Howard and J.C. Jackson or something. But, those guys, they held down. And you can't hold everybody down. So, and Kevin Byard talked today about how he keeps talking to him. He's got to build that confidence on the practice field, and he's got to prove to the coaches that he can do what he's being asked to do. And guys, here's the thing. It felt like he was doing that in the offseason and training camp. There was a disconnect. So, and this is a kid who has not played a ton of ball. He was the first guy to opt out in 2020 because of the pandemic. And then, he had the injuries and such. So, and shoot, he was injured in his first start last year. So it's not, and that was in October. So this kid has not played a ton of football, and he just needs more reps. And right now he's getting them on the practice field, and they're going to need him. It's the NFL. They will need him at some point. So be patient. And, they're trying to keep his confidence up so that he can be ready when they need him. And, and as Mike Vrabel made clear Monday, that could be Sunday. That's the way this league is.
Is the situation with Farley more glaring because he was a first-round draft pick? I mean, is that a deal where maybe that was a little bit of a reach for him, or would it be an issue regardless, do you think?
Well, he's a first-round pick, so it would be an issue regardless. And then, the Titans got really lucky in 2019. They took a guy coming off an injury in Jeffrey Simmons, and, he's just been lights out ever since, right? Can't get him out of the starting lineup. So good that they cut Jarrell Casey. That's how good that worked out. But coming off the Isaiah Wilson one in 2020, maybe being a little safer might have been a smarter move. I mean, look at who they took with the 35th pick this year, second round, Roger McCreary, a guy who had tons of experience at Auburn, an SEC conference, had been playing, spent his last year under a different coordinator when he could have gone early. I mean, there's just so many things that, you make choices when you draft people. And, Dylan Radins was a choice last year. Second rounder, FCS, hadn't played but one game the year before because of the pandemic. And, they looked and, at this point, it's easy to call that one a mistake because, they just keep adding guys. They signed LaRaven Clark, and brought him in to bolster the offensive line. I think he's at least on the practice squad. I can't remember which one's on the practice squad. I think Mario Edwards is on the roster because they signed him off of the Jaguars. There's been a lot going on the last 3 days. But they keep trying to bring in guys on the offensive line, which is not a great sign of confidence in Dylan Radins. I mean, Dennis Daly, a guy that they traded for at the end of the preseason, has, he's replaced Taylor Lewan, a job that should be Dylan Radins as a second-round pick. So
Dylan Radins, who did not play on Sunday.
Did not play, and this is a guy who, he played one game the year before they drafted him because FCS, they played one game, and the FCS kind of pushed their 20 season to the spring, February of 21. So, there was not a ton of experience for him as well. So part of this goes into, the choices made in drafting, and now it's up to the coaching staff to try to get these guys up to speed. But sometimes, you work with what you've got. And so we see them continuing to bring people in. 11 guys on IR, and yet two of the high picks that they've got can't get on the field. That is not a good, indication of drafting over these last 2 years for John Robinson in the front office right now.
Well, and especially when you throw in the fact that you've got injuries everywhere. Chris Jackson was placed on injured reserve on, I guess, last Wednesday. You've got, Amadi is out. Your defensive backfield is thin. Your linebackers are thin. Where does this team stand as injuries are concerned now that we have an injury report?
Well, we don't have an injury report as of today. I'm looking. I don't see it just yet in my email, but I do see a report out of Indy that Jonathan Taylor did not practice today, toe, but that he'll be good to go. Bud Dupree, he was going on the field to practice. Now, how available was he? That's a good sign. But yeah, this is a beat up secondary. So and they're Ola Adeni was we saw him at the beginning, and he was in the yellow jersey, meaning no contact. So that's a good sign. But the fact of the matter is, they're banged up. 11 players on IR. I had people on Saturday when I tweeted that number out saying, "Oh my God, fire the strength and conditioning staff." It's the NFL, people. It has 100% injury rate. So, some guys it hits harder than others. So
apparently some teams it hits harder than others.
Well,
consistently.
Baltimore Ravens insist that they would have been a Super Bowl team last year had they stayed healthy. So, that's the way of the NFL. I remember Steve McNair in an AFC Championship game, playing with a lot of people hurt around him. He's the reason they got to Oakland. And then I remember him having chips in his ankle that he had to have surgery for after the season, and he could hardly move. And yet he had them in the divisional round in New England in that cold game. So, sometimes you're injured to the point that you can keep playing. Sometimes you're hurt and you can't play. And the Titans right now, that secondary, it's hurting, which is why, here's the thing. What you try to do with the Caleb Farley is more game film. Talk to him on the practice field. He needs to be watching tape more and more and more. And, how you get his confidence back, I'm not sure. Maybe it's getting him back on the field and he makes a big play. Sometimes it can be that simple for a player. So we're just going to have to stay tuned and see how they patch this secondary together.
Yeah, patching it together feels like that's what they've been doing, chicken wire and bubble gum for a little while, and you just take what you can get. But, they played pretty well against a really good Las Vegas passing attack. I almost said Oakland. I had to stop myself. It's easier just to say Raiders. And this week it doesn't feel like you're going to – you said this earlier. It doesn't feel like they're going to be playing a team as talented as the Raiders.
You definitely don't feel as the Raiders receiving core. To look at it on paper, I would think it concerns you a little bit more than the Colts receiving core. Now, I certainly would not pose that comment or that question to Mike Vrabel, but just looking at it, there's not a Devontae Adams, there's not a Darren Waller. You feel like you've got a little bit better chance to win some of those one-on-one matchups with your secondary, even in the shape that it's in, against the Colts than you might have going into the Raiders game.
Their biggest worry on Sunday will be Jonathan Taylor, running back. Their receivers, that's why when I picked the AFC South, I picked the Titans to win because I had concerns about the offensive line. Yes, they got Quentin Nelson, but look at who their tackles are. And then secondly, the fact that, who are their receivers? And Jack Doyle is no longer with the Colts. So, he's the guy who has absolutely killed the team that let him go by not keeping him on the regular roster. He's gone. So, it's all about stopping Jonathan Taylor, the guy who led the league in rushing last year. Why? Because Derrick Henry broke his foot in Indianapolis last year. So, I'm very curious to see how this showdown comes because, we've been kind of waiting. Derrick Henry ran with authority on Sunday and had, he easily, if not for their second half, kind of power outages, he could easily, be near the top of the league again in rushing. And he's been close. He had a 20-yard run wiped out by a hold in the opener. And, they just couldn't seem to quite get him going in the second half. So I'm really curious to see who wins the rushing battle on Sunday. I think that's the team that wins because I'm sorry. I've seen this team. I've seen the Titans defense play Matt Ryan in the past. I know they've got Quentin Nelson over there now protecting him, but yeah, he's the latest quarterback that the Colts have pinned their hopes on, and good luck with that.
Teresa Walker of the Associated Press joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. And, you feel like Matt Ryan, theoretically, is an upgrade over Carson Wentz. But, again, it's as much as anything for a quarterback, it's who you're throwing it to. And we don't know. Literally, we don't know who they're throwing it to. So I think this might be a chance for Terrence Mitchell to get his feet on the ground, and B, for Caleb Farley to maybe build up a little of that confidence that they say is lacking.
Well, absolutely. I mean, this is a huge opportunity. And then you've got the Commanders and coming up in the week after that, and then they get their bye. So, they've got, and after this Sunday, Elijah Molden would be eligible to enter that window of practicing. And maybe you can get him back. If not for the Washington game, certainly after the bye, you would hope, and that'll help kind of bolster that secondary as well. So, there is hope. And, you look around the rest of the league and, I see Joey Bosa's going on IR for the Chargers. I mean, people are getting hurt around this league. It's almost like a game of survival. The team that is healthiest in December and in January are the teams that will have a chance to win titles. And, what we saw with this coaching staff last year, did we not? 91 different players and 26 of them on IR. The return rules are different this year. You can only bring 8 back instead of unlimited return. So at some point, you could hit a wall and you just don't have enough people to replace who you've got. But and you're bringing people off the street, which I'm sorry, Deontay Foreman, that's not going to work out every year for you. So, but you have a little faith in this franchise and this coaching staff that they can get these guys going the right direction. I mean, the 0-2 start, I know it wasn't great, but if they win on Sunday, they're 2-2, 500, with a chance to go to Washington and potentially go into their bye at 3-2, with still 2 more road games on the other side of that bye. And after watching the Colts beat the Chiefs, not as worried about that. And after, Nathaniel Hackett, ooh, boy, when you got to bring somebody in to help you do your job as head coach at the end of games and things like that, rarely turns out well. So, their game against Denver, I'm not too worried about that as well. So, the bigger issue is going to be the fact that they've got a chance to get on top of this division or near the top the way Jaguars are playing, because they play the Colts twice in the month of October. That's going to be a big key to how quickly they can climb back up.
Teresa Walker here on Main Street Sports Today. Before we let you go, Teresa, tell us how things were out in Memphis. I know John Morant's getting fired up, ready to play.
Well, that was the fun thing, trying to get him to share some specifics. He's not really doing much. His coach said that, he's working on his 3-point game, and he did acknowledge that he was trying to get stronger to survive the season a little bit better. That was kind of it. But I mean, let's just put it this way. They're confident. It's a young team, very young team, a team that, Danny Green is recovering from a knee injury, suffered in May, and they want to keep him around because they know that they could use his experience and his 3-point shooting ability to help them come next spring. And this is a team, I mean, they wanted the smoke. They talked about it all last season, climbing up the chimney and such. Well, they've got a lot of national games this year, okay? Jaren Jackson Jr. says he won't be back for opening night, but it won't, people will be very happy when, his window had him potentially out through the end of this year, the calendar year, 4 to 6 months, right? After having surgery on his right foot. Well, he says that things are going really nicely. And guys, Christmas night, I know they're going straight up against the NFL that night, but that's a night that I'm probably going to be watching Grizzlies at Golden State, because some of the moves the Grizzlies made was so they could match up with the Warriors. David Roddy, kid they drafted out of Colorado State, that's a guy, literally, his nickname Roddy the Body, he's not a big fan of. He'd rather take D-Rod, but that Roddy the Body was somebody that feels like he was drafted to body up against Draymond Green. So I cannot wait for that game on Christmas night.
We are, it's interesting that you say that, because Roddy the Body sounds like a wrestling nickname.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And in Memphis, that could work.
It fits. Absolutely.
So there you go. But yeah, we're looking forward to the Memphis Grizzlies start, as well as the Nashville Predators getting underway. They've got they played, I guess, a couple days ago. They played 2 games against Florida. And that was weird. Anyway,
somewhere around here.
I don't know how you play 2 hockey games in a day, but
well, it's training camp. You got a big roster.
You got 37 million people out there, but still, it's just wild.
Yeah, but, Predators had 53 people on the roster Monday, so and they'll be they'll actually be hosting Tampa Bay tomorrow night in Nashville because of Hurricane Ian hitting Florida right now. So, and keep an eye on next week. They're supposed to fly out in the next few days to go to Europe. I think they've got a game scheduled in Bern, Switzerland, as the last warm up, and then they're supposed to start the season against the San Jose Sharks in the Czech Republic. But there's been some questions raised. The Czech government is like, well, we don't want anybody who's from Russia playing in our country because of the Ukraine. And there's a lot of massive protests over there right now. So, I'm just really curious to see if they end up getting on that plane to go to Europe. And I know that they've been very much looking forward to playing there. I mean, Nino Niederreiter, Roman Josi, there's a lot of guys who, and for the Europeans, it's a train ride for a lot of these folks to come watch their loved ones play in the NHL, and a big chance for the NHL to get back to Europe for the first time really since the pandemic. So just stay tuned. There's a lot of moving parts, it seems like.
Certainly are. Teresa, as always, we appreciate your insight and expertise, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here, Mo. When we come back, it's Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. So you guys stick around. We'll be right back. This is Chris Yao with Main Street Sports Today. Every show, Mo Patton and I welcome friends from all across the sports landscape, from high school coaches and reporters to national, college, and pro sports personalities. You never know who might stop by for a chat. AP Tennessee sports editor, 3-time Tennessee Sports Writer of the Year 2020 TSWA Hall of Famer. She covers the Titans, the Predators, the Grizzlies, college football, and hoops. Please make welcome Teresa Walker.
Former University of Tennessee, former Team USA Olympian, ex-Cy Young Award winner, R.A. Dickey. R.A., did I miss anything?
Man, that was sweet. I need to listen to that before I go to bed every night. That was nice.
Has 5 sports Emmys. That's not bad for the other guy in Wham, Ryan McGee.
The other guy in Wham married the best looking girl, Bananarama. So the other guy in Wham had a pretty good life.
From preps to pros, we're taking on the sports topics you care about. Tune in across Main Street Media social platforms at 2 p.m. or on demand on your podcast distribution platform of choice. Welcome back in Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Meant to go back to this. There we are. All right, let's
before you get into Wild and Wacky,
okay.
Scrolling through Twitter is what I'm wanting to do. We had Jared Benko, the athletics director from Georgia Southern, on the show last Monday.
We did.
Apparently, the Georgia Southern coaching staff has been spending some time up this way because Nolensville quarterback Kobe Walton, at Walton_Kobe, tweeted out about 3 hours ago, home, #Hail Southern, and a graphic saying that he is committed to the Eagles.
How about that?
Gator.
Clay Helton, baby.
There you go. So congratulations to him. And that ought to be fun. I'm not sure how good a place Statesboro is to be right now. But
yeah, it just depends on
which way,
how things go. But it's Georgia's always kind of right there. They get a lot of it. But yeah, still big congrats.
Absolutely. Okay.
All right, now let's get into Wild and Wacky Wednesday, the weirdest and wildest news from across the world, Mo. And we start. I have to show you this, though. I can't show you, unfortunately, but I was going through my my wild and wacky news list here, and you got to hear this headline. Florida man punts football into rear end of own teammate.
You know who that was, don't you?
Oh, no. Which one? The teammate or the punter?
The teammate.
No, I don't.
The teammate was former Vanderbilt receiver Trent Sherfield.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's and Vanderbilt football used that picture as they promoted their doors in the pros from this past weekend, actually. So yeah.
That's tough, man. I just feel like maybe, dude, like,
I don't know.
Situational awareness important. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, 3 Florida men have been arrested after an off-duty detective caught those 3 men cutting down traffic lights. I don't even know what you do. What do you do with traffic lights? Just keep them? Like, what, you sell them on eBay? According to deputies on Sunday at 1 a.m., a Hernando County Sheriff's detective was driving home from an off-duty detail when he saw a suspicious van in the area of Hexham Road and Commercial Way. The driver of the van had stopped near the intersection, then turned off the vehicle's headlights. The detective then observed sparks emanating from the area where traffic lights are in the process of being installed. They weren't even up yet. They were trying to get the brand new ones. They were trying to get that new. And additional deputies arrived soon on the scene where they saw 3 individuals using a saw to cut the traffic lights off the poles. 3 traffic lights had already been placed inside the van by the suspects, and they admitted to stealing the traffic lights. Well, no kidding. Like, they're literally like right there. What are you going to say? This van? I stole this van. I mean, what are you going to do?
How did those get there?
This saw is like in your hand.
The saw is in your hand. The traffic light is in the van. What? This is circumstantial evidence, Your Honor. Dang right it is. Yeah.
The circumstance was you were sawing lights off the
That's
pole.
the circumstance. Exactly. Oh wow.
Oh man. I hate to do this to you, but we're gonna go to a tweet here because listen, Jim Cantor is an absolute crazy person.
You don't want to see this man in your town.
I want to understand what he's thinking here. I mean, so he's out in he's in Fort Myers in this video here, and so.
Styrofoam and things like that that are like underneath the roofing, maybe in the roof.
Watch him here as he gets hit by a tree limb.
All right, you know what? I'm just going to come in here for a second.
I'm just going to come in for a second. That's a good idea, Jim. That's a darn good idea.
I think you should come in for more than a second.
I mean, look at this.
Jimmy, all right?
At least his cameraman isn't as crazy as he is.
I like how he just keeps wiping the camera off.
Stand up. All right, I'm letting you guys look at the pictures, okay? Now, I hardly see anything out here.
Okay.
Couple pieces of debris.
So I would just like to say those 3 Florida men would have just waited a couple days.
They could have just went and picked them
up off the ground.
The traffic lights. Yep, they'd have been down there. No saw necessary.
I mean, this is
wow.
What were you thinking? You weren't.
What is Jim Cantor thinking?
Well, Jim Cantor is an absolute crazy person.
Daredevil.
He is. There are some people in the world who look for those type of thrills. I am not one of them.
He is.
And as soon as they closed the Waffle House in Fort Myers, I got to go.
It's time to get out of Dodge.
So, yeah, that's what's going on right now down in Florida. It's crazy people. And finally, a man on a flight to Miami had an unexpected visitor make a peaceful flight quite uncomfortable. A bulldog on board the plane wandered over and was apparently had eaten something he didn't need to eat and got the runs. And at Mike Solana, MIC Solana on Twitter. My boyfriend's on a plane to Miami right now, and a bulldog in the row next to him just had diarrhea. Everyone freaked out. The dog owner began sobbing, and the dog escaped. Now covered in poo, it's running around the plane. People are lifting up their legs and screaming. That is... the dog was actually in the window seat next to his partner, who was in the middle seat, and a girl in the aisle seat. The girl wanted to hold the pup up when he on her lap, which then got all over the boyfriend. And apparently those affected received $75 in airline rewards.
Is that enough?
To have to sit on a plane, you can't really clean yourself up. You just have to sit there.
So again, is that enough?
No, not even close. Not even a little bit.
And that's not even a good start. Oh.
At 11:07 p.m. on Sunday, Solana and his boyfriend said his boyfriend is now home, but he swears he can still smell it.
Oh. That's awful. Wouldn't wish that on anybody.
No, that's brutal.
And you can't do anything.
You can't do anything. You are just there. You're on a plane.
You can't even change. I mean, you can't clean up. You just got to sit there with it.
Sit there and deal.
Oh.
No, thank you. That is wild.
How was the dog even loose?
How was the dog on the plane in the passenger area? Had to be a service dog, or I guess.
I got questions.
Well, that didn't answer it. But
no.
Oh my gosh.
$75.
$75.
I need to know what airline it was.
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. Oh, let's come back tomorrow. Coach's Corner.
Jamal Stewart, coach of the undefeated and defending Class 3A state runner-up East Nashville Eagles, will join us.
Talking about his team's game against Green Hill. We'll also pick 10 of the most important high school games from across the mid-state.
We'll also visit for a minute with Nashville Sounds play-by-play announcer Jeff Him between the end of the season and the start of the playoffs out in Vegas. Do we have a final?
That's what I just went to look and see, and it appears that Memphis took the finale 8-4.
Well, it's just the regular season finale.
That's right.
It's the finale for Memphis.
The
Sounds still got ball to be played.
Got something to do. They got something. They got a little game to play out in Vegas.
At least one, maybe two.
Let's hope for two. So come back tomorrow, 2:00, right here, Main Street Sports Day, presented by Mid Tennessee Bone and Joint. We'll see you then.